Hey, what's up YouTube? So this is going to be a tutorial on how to fish using a bubble float and a fly. And this technique is also referred to as whipping. Alright guys, so I got all the equipment you need laid out on the table. All you really need is any kind of leader line. It could be monofilament, it could be fluorocarbon. It really doesn't matter. That's your leader line. Grab your favorite fly. This is just one that I got off of Amazon. And then you need a swivel. And this is the star of the show, which is the bubble float. I'll explain more about this further in the video. Just need some scissors laying around your house, and you need to know how to tie on a uni knot and also a loop knot. I'm not going to show you guys how to do that in this video because there's hundreds of videos on YouTube explaining how to do that better than me. So the first step would be to fill your bubble float up with water. So this is the bubble float. Just push the cork out so that you could fill it up with water. So now it's filled up with water, and there's a little bit of air in here so that it could float when I cast it out in the ocean. So if you look closely, there's a larger opening in the cork, and there's also a smaller opening at the other end of the cork. So this is my fishing rod over here, and this is my braid that I already fed into the eyelets of my fishing rod. And what you want to do is you would want to thread the end of your braid first through the small opening of the cork in the bubble float. It will come out the other end, which is the bigger opening of the bubble float. So the reason why you want to thread it this way is because we're going to tie it. We're going to tie the end of the braid to this swivel, and when you're retrieving it, the swivel is going to be knocking up against the cork, and every time it knocks on the larger opening of this cork, it tightens the bubble float instead of loosening it up, which will be the other end. So now that we threaded our main line onto the bubble, we're going to take the end of the main line and tie a uni knot to the swivel. So there we go. We got our bubble float on, and then we have our swivel at the end of the bubble float. One thing you just have to make sure is the swivel is big enough so that it won't go through the large opening of the cork. The swivel is basically acting as a stopper. And then from here, you will grab your leader line. In this case, I got 15-pound monofilament. I will grab an arm length of leader line. Snip this off. I'm going to tie another uni knot to the other end of the swivel. Cut the tag end off. So just a quick run through. I threaded my main line first through the small opening of the cork in the bubble float and out through the large opening of the bubble float, and then I tied it onto a swivel using a uni knot, and on the other end of the swivel is my leader line, and I also tied it on with a uni knot. So now I'm showing you the end of my leader line, and this is where we are going to tie on our fly using a loop knot instead of a uni knot. And the reason why I would use a loop knot instead of a uni knot is because a loop knot will give this fly more freedom to move around in the water, instead of where a uni knot will have the eye of the fly, the eye of the hook, cinched down to where it won't have a lot of action in the water. So I will show you guys in a second once I tie this loop knot onto my fly. Alright guys, so I tied on my fly using a loop knot, and if you guys can see closely, it has a lot of free play so that it could give it more action in the water. If you were to tie this on using a uni knot, the knot will be cinched down directly onto the eye of the hook, and the fly wouldn't have free play, if you guys understand what I'm trying to say. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is how you tie on a bubble float onto a fly, and this is commonly referred to as the whipping technique or whipping method. This is very popular with fishermen out in Hawaii, and this is how I first got exposed to this kind of fishing. Basically, this bubble float is acting as a casting assist, because a fly is basically weightless. This has no weight to it. It's just a hook tied on with synthetic hairs, and there's no weight to it. So without the bubble float acting as the weight, it literally can't cast. So I guess the argument will be, instead of using a bubble float and filling it up with water, why can't you just use a regular egg sinker? Which is this. An egg sinker is kind of like the bubble float, but this is made out of lead, and it also has two openings at the end. So instead of using the bubble float, you can also use an egg sinker. But the problem with this is, once you cast it out, this lead is going to sink down to the bottom or wherever you're fishing at, and then that's when snags will occur, and that could ruin your day of fishing. You're gonna have to retie everything and whatnot. And also, if you were to use an egg sinker, your rate of retrieval on the fishing reel would be fast, because you wouldn't want this to be snagged onto any structure on the sea floor. But with this, because of the fact that there's air inside the bubble, it's actually going to float, or it's going to suspend in the water, and you wouldn't have to worry about snagging. And also, your rate of retrieval wouldn't have to be as fast as compared to tying on a lead sinker, because this won't sink to the bottom. But you know, there's a time and place for everything. People still use egg sinkers for different fishing scenarios, and people also use bubble floats for different fishing scenarios. One thing about these bubble floats is that if you're fishing around rocks, then these could easily crack unless you buy a specific brand. I got this from a company called High Gear Fishing in Hawaii, and their plastics are pretty strong, but it still does crack after knocking it up against rocks frequently. And also, if you want to add more weight to this bubble float, you could also use some BB gun pellets. You could probably put like 20 in here or whatever you want, and it would add a few more grams to it. So right now we're in the middle of January. It's still pretty cold outside to use this technique because my hands will just freeze. I'm not really good at explaining stuff, but I hope you guys learned something, and catch you guys in the next video. Peace. Hey, what's up everybody? So we just finished our fishing adventure, and now we're gonna go to a Chinese bakery, and when I go there I'm going to be practicing in a different language. So before I go there, I'm just going to be in this train practicing so that I could know how to articulate and pronounce the things that I have to say when I'm talking to the cashier. So what I'm going to say to them is, I would like an iced milk tea. Less ice, less sweet, I think. Ngõ song you ngõ 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 song you vui đông nải trà siêu tiền siêu binh. Ngõ song you vui đông nải trà siêu tiền siêu binh. Ngõ song you vui đông nải trà siêu tiền siêu binh. I think I'm pretty good at it. Ngõ 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 siêu ngõ song you vui đông nải trà siêu tiền siêu binh. Ngõ song you vui ngõ song you vui đông nải trà đông 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 뭐야? ngõ song you vui đông nải trà siêu tiền siêu binh. 我想要杯凍奶茶，小冰小丁，no 小點小冰。
小甜小冰中杯。
Small. Yeah.
嗰度唔記得咗啲奶啫。冇咩啊？凍檸茶，兩杯咖啡，兩杯熱咖啡。
And I guess it worked.
即係越嚟越睇住個世界變。
多謝晒。